All right, people are starting to kind of come in. It's 9 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started this morning. We hope you guys are as excited as we are to be here. We were giving ourselves a pep talk this morning. Sometimes we need it when we don't have audience interaction. Maybe one day we'll get to do this live and get to meet you guys in person. So I want to go over just a few things before we get started. Mainly because there were some that were having some more technical difficulties yesterday. We want to make sure everybody has the information they need. So currently you guys are, your microphones are turned off. That's just to keep the background noise to a minimum. We know that you're in your offices a lot of times. You get people kind of coming in and out. And if you forget to mute or something, it kind of becomes a problem. So we've just taken care of that. We've just muted everybody. We do want you to feel available to ask any questions. You guys were great about asking questions yesterday. So please keep that coming. As one of us is doing the presentation, the other one will be monitoring the chat box. We will read those questions aloud here as they pertain to the presentation. If we have time at the end, we might take some additional questions. We plan on taking all of those questions and we're going to put them into the bulletin. We do a quarterly bulletin. So we'll put those in there so they'll be available to everybody so you can look at that. We are also recording today's session. So again, we'll have 2 recordings. We'll have them put up on our website. They'll be on the sheriff's page under presentations and training. It'll be right along with the PDF files of the presentations that we have. You'll see them, we'll put video recording. This normally, I always say about a week to 2 weeks. Sometimes it's earlier. It really just depends on when they can get it up there, especially with the size of the files and all of that. But as soon as it's available, I will send out notification, probably through the Auditors and the Sheriff's Association again, just to make sure that you know that it's there and where you can find it. Okay.
Might send thing out through the Gov Delivery.
We could do Gov Delivery too, because I was just going to kind of get there. So as we get started, we had a lot of people say, hey, we want to be a part of the mailing list. And I wanted to show everybody one more time on how to subscribe so that you can get the eGov delivery, because eventually we will not be using the Auditors. We're hoping to go straight through the eGov to get everybody, and so that you get the information. We don't send out a ton of information. We send out any memos that we put out that would apply to you, any kind of session training stuff that we do, things like that. But it's not like we send out a weekly memo or a weekly anything. I said, so it's really just information you really need to know. But if you go to our website, and this is the sheriff's page that I'm on now, but any of the websites have it. Okay, so you just have to kind of look. It's normally up at the top, right underneath the contact information. You'll see this little sentence right here that says to subscribe to our email list. Please sign up on this page. Click that, and this then takes you to the form that you need to fill out. And then you'll select down at the bottom county sheriffs. You can pick others too. I will tell you, we do send out, if you pick the auditors, we do send them a little bit more than what we would send maybe the sheriffs. Okay, so just be aware of that. We ask that you do this. I get a lot of emails saying, hey, can you add me? I really can't. So the problem runs into is that if you have ever been part of this eGov, you've ever subscribed, and at one point in time you went in and unsubscribed, it will not allow me to add it. So it's kind of a safety thing for that. So you're saying, hey, I don't want these emails, so it's not going to let us make you be back on the list and get those emails. It only allows you to sign up for yourself. So, so this is what you'll go to, fill that out, do county sheriffs, and then we'll start sending out everything. So when I do get the recording done, I'll do, that's what I'll do. I'll send it out through the Sheriff's Association. I'll send it out through the Auditors for those who haven't got to this yet. And then I'm also going to do an eGov delivery. And so it comes out, it kind of looks like a memo. If you look at it, it's kind of got a blue top on it and so in the body of it. We'll sign it, Lori, we'll have Lori and my name on it. It has state board of accounts, all of that. So you should be receiving that if you sign up for this list. Okay. Let me unshare that. Maybe stop sharing. Okay. All right, so today is going to be the final day of the workshops. We just kind of, like I said, put some topics together, dig deep, that kind of thing. I am going to put together a survey that that I'd just kind of like some feedback on how you felt this session was. Did you learn a lot from it? Is there things that can be improved? Please answer honestly, as these are all anonymous. I can't tell who submits what. I said it that way on purpose, so that you will feel more comfortable to just give me your total feedback on that. What I'll probably do is once I create that, I'll wait till the video gets up on the website, and I'll send you the survey and the information about where to find the videos at the same time. So it should be within the same email. I think with that, I think I've covered everything, Lori.
I think we're back on.
So I am going to turn it over to Lori. We are thinking we might get you out a little bit early today. So that would be a good thing. But she's going to get us started talking about the supplemental AFR. I think you're good to go. Have no sound. Somebody says has no sound. Is it just one person? Okay, before she gets started, somebody's saying they have no sound. Can anybody else hear us? Yes, yes, yes. Okay. All right, so if it looks like everybody can hear us but the one, so you might want to check your speakers on your computer, laptop, and see if that fixes it.
She can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me. Everybody said yes, I just assumed. All right, I'm gonna let Lori go and then I will answer in the chat.
Okay, so there's a blue box. What's the blue box?
Oh, that's a chat. It'll go away.
No, someone just said move the blue box. So there's still somewhat showing up on yours.
Move the blue box. I didn't see that. Is that just on yours?
Can I minimize this? Is this it?
Okay, hold on. Oh, it says you can move the blue box on the top of the screen. I don't know what that means. And maybe the middle of the screen down the middle. I had to reconnect. Oh, they're telling them how to reconnect.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That wasn't what you're showing. Okay.
Okay.
What box I'm moving? Okay. We're back on. Okay. So we're going to start out this morning, and we're going to talk a little bit about financial reporting and the supplemental AFR report. We mentioned the AFR report yesterday and said we would be talking about it today, and so that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about how it fits in with the annual financial report, why it's important, what your department's role is in completing this. We're also going to kind of touch on some claims processing at the county and some budgeting issues, just to kind of give you, it's kind of a high level overview of that, so it's not really in depth, but to give you some background on that. No, it's not advancing. So we discussed yesterday that we are the audit agency for the state of Indiana. So we audit the one of the first things we do is audit the financial records for the county. We provide an audit opinion on those financial records, and that's the audit report. All of our audit reports are available on our website. They are public records. So you can go to our website. On the very first, our homepage, there's a place to search our audit reports. If you ever want to look at an audit report for your county or any other county or city or town or any other unit that we audit, that's the place you would go, and it is a searchable database. You can put in your parameters and search that. What those financial records, what those reports, those financial reports tell the readers, and those readers, again, they can be legislators, they can be bonding agents, they can be financial institutions, they can be your own citizens. It tells them where your county is financially at a specific point in time, which is at year end, 12/31, for the reporting year, and then what types and amounts of revenue have been received and what amounts have been dispersed and for what purposes. So it gives a reporting of for the individual funds, what revenues have come in and what have been dispersed out of those funds. And these reports are important for making decisions for your governing boards when they're making management decisions. They are used when making decisions on how much to charge you if your county is getting financing. So they're very important reports. They should really not be undervalued, and that's why we're talking about them today and about your role and how your information fits into that. The report can also, some of the information also comes off the funds ledger, and as we talked about yesterday, there are funds within the funds ledger that are used for the Sheriff's Department, so it gives you a status of where your funds are. So if you wanted to pull up the financial report for a prior year, you can see the history of what's coming in and out of those funds, whether it's the accident report fund or any of the others that we talked about. Okay, again, we're going back to statute here, and I'm giving you the specific statute. It's in Indiana Code 5-11-1-4A. The statute requires every county, among other audited financial entities, to provide within 60 days at the end of the calendar year to complete an annual financial report and provide that to the state examiner. The report is completed on the Gateway website, and later after this, Ricky's going to give you a lot more information on Gateway. The report is one of the first requirements to be uploaded on Gateway. We've added functionality on Gateway since then that Ricky's going to talk about. But it was one of the first reasons that we actually established the Gateway system, was to gather all of this financial information. In years that are not a leap year, that due date is March 1st. So most of the time, that's when that report has to be uploaded to the Gateway system by your auditor. That annual report contains the financial information for the county. So the county auditor has the responsibility to prepare and enter the information on Gateway for the AFR. The annual financial report is the basis of the financial information that we audit. We take that information that's uploaded on Gateway. We do a macro on it, so we kind of manipulate it a little bit. We don't change it, any of the numbers, we just manipulate the format a little bit, and that is what we come out and audit, those numbers. And those numbers should tie, we're going to talk about how the report comes together, but those numbers should tie back to the funds ledger, back to your ledgers. Once we have completed the audit, then we're going to provide an opinion on that financial information. As I said, whether it is materially correct or not, whether the information that the auditor is presenting materially represents the financial situation for the county for the year reported. And that independent audit opinion on your financial statements is that your financial statements presented are materially correct, again, is very, very important. It affects your ability to get financing, it affects your ability to get grants, it affects the view of your citizens and the legislator, anyone else that reviews it. So it is a very, very important opinion. So if your financial statements are not materially correct, or we are not able to place an opinion on the financial statement due to the condition of financial records or lack of records, this does have a strong negative impact on your county. This does not happen often. I'm very happy to say we very often either have to disclaim an opinion or place a negative opinion on financial statements for counties, but it can happen, it has happened. But fortunately it is very rare, but it does have a lot of negative impacts, so we want to avoid that at all possible, which is the main reason for all of the training we do for all the departments and the offices within the county. If the county does not provide the annual financial report, if your auditor just doesn't load that up, and believe it or not, that does happen, we do have to track some down after the 60 days, you cannot get your budget approved for the next year. There are financial consequences for not providing that information. We do have the ability to subpoena the information to in some ways kind of push the issue to get that information provided. So what is the annual financial report based on? It is based on, the biggest part of it is based on the funds ledger that the county auditor keeps. They will enter or upload, and all most counties upload. Their software has a way to pull that information out of their software and prepare the report on Gateway. They don't usually sit down and manually enter each individual fund. What the report shows is the beginning balance, the receipts, disbursements, and ending balance for all of the funds within the county's funds ledger, and it does go into a detail of the type of receipts, so it classifies those receipts. So whether it's a property tax receipt, whether it's a charge for service, whether it's a fine or a penalty, it goes through and classifies those receipts. At the same time, it classifies the expenses, whether it's a personnel expense, whether it's a supplies expense, whether it's a capital outlay. So those are also, that information is loaded in when that, on your funds ledger when that's uploaded. With the funds ledger, the general fund is the main operating fund of your county, of most units. And it's probably where their office budget comes from. However, for sheriffs, that may not always be the case. There are also special revenue funds. Some counties run some of their sheriff or jail out of their lit public safety funds. Sometimes there is a lit special purpose fund, which might also have a sheriff or jail budget within it. Special revenue funds are funds where certain fees or other revenues are set aside within the fund to pay for specific purposes. So it can't be included in general fund because it's either restricted by the money that comes in or restricted by the source or by the purpose of the fund. So lit is local income tax as opposed to property tax. So lit public safety is local income tax. It's set aside for public safety purposes. Special purpose is a separate rate of local income tax that can be set aside. The two most common are jail funding and probably motor vehicle highway, but those are within statute. You can look at your county, and if you have that, I'll tell you what it's specifically for. The county has many funds on the funds ledger, so if you pull up your county's financial statements, you will see there are a lot of funds listed. We discussed several that can be used by the sheriff yesterday. All of those should be included on that funds ledger that's uploaded by the auditor. However, we also discussed that there are funds that are not maintained on the county's funds ledger. These funds are held by various offices, and the auditor does not have that information. It's not part of their funds ledger. They are not tracking it. They do not have bank statements. They have no information on that. However, these are public funds, and in order for the financial statements to be considered complete, these funds have to be added. Failure to add these funds is a finding on an audit report, a very common one. So your auditor is not just being nibby-nosed when they're asking for these reports. This information is required to be added to the financial statements in order for those financial statements to be complete. And if those funds are material, and depending on how much you have in those with the various offices, it can impact the financial statement opinion. So it's very, very important. The only way the auditor has the information to put that in is to get the supplemental additional financial report from the department where those funds are being accounted for, tracked, and kept. So the treasurer has money that they collect. They collect property tax money, and they keep it on the cash book and some other taxes and sources. Until that is settled, it is the only location it is available is on their cash book. And so they have to do a report that reports how much money they're carrying on the cash book that has not been moved to county funds. The clerk keeps a trust fund, and they may have a small child support account as well that they have to report on. And the sheriff, as we talked about, has the inmate trust and the commissary fund. That money does not ever flow into county funds. That is money that's kept totally separate by the sheriff's department, but it does have to be reported on the annual financial report. There are some other funds that have to be added, just so you know, if you have county home and you have trust funds for your residents there. Community corrections might have funds that have to be added, tourism commission, for example. So there are other departments that may be keeping funds that need to be added as well. But the three most common are the treasurer, clerk, and the sheriff. And I can't emphasize enough The source information for the funds ledger comes from the auditor. They have the software for that. They're going to upload that information. But the source information for those additional funds comes from the departments. It's not in the auditor's office. All they're going to have is that supplemental additional financial report. So we are going to be going out to those other offices to audit the amounts that have been reported on the supplemental AFR. Okay, this is just a recap. These are some of the funds we discussed yesterday that the sheriff department uses for operations of the department or of the jail. And you can look at the PowerPoint from yesterday to get more details on the, other than the accident report fund, the first one on there. All of these funds require appropriation, which means you need a budget for these funds. Usually you request a budget based on historical use of the funds in the past. So if you look back at what you needed in years past and what you anticipate needing it, you can work out an idea of what you're going to need for your upcoming year. Of course, you're limited by what's available in the fund and what you anticipate the revenue coming into that fund to be. And again, that's going to be an estimate of what's going to be collected, what that source of revenue is, how much you anticipate collecting in fees for the year. Budgeting is not an exact science. You will find that there are times you do not budget enough. Something comes up and you need to get additional claims paid out of these funds, and so you may have to request additional appropriation from your counsel on that if you have sufficient cash balance to support those additional appropriations, or a situation where maybe you have more income coming in than you anticipate, and so you're able to do more claims than you had thought you could. We're going to talk about claims in a minute, about getting claims processed, but one thing to remember for your auditor, bottom line, in order for them to pay a claim, there has to be sufficient appropriation, if appropriation is required, and there has to be sufficient cash balance. So they're always going to look at those two things before they push that claim through. And if the claim is against an appropriation that is not sufficient, or it's against a cash balance that is not sufficient, there should be reaching back out to you to say you can't pay it out of here, or you're going to need an additional appropriation. Okay, so you're going to have to work with your auditor's office when those kinds of things come up and kind of expect that. Hopefully, if you get regular reports, you know where you're at in your budget, you know where your cash balance is, so you can make decisions on submitting those claims through. As an example, if you need to pay a claim, you got a $500 claim comes in, and it can be paid from your firearms training fund, but the fund only has $400 in it. If you send that claim through, they cannot pay that. They cannot run your firearms fund $100 in the red, even if they know that another $100 is going to be put into that fund in a couple weeks. They cannot pay that unless there is actually $500 in the fund. $400 can be taken out of the fund, but the additional 100 is going to have to come from somewhere else. So they're going to send it back to you or ask you, how do you want to split this? How do you want to allocate this? The county auditor should not let any fund have a negative balance. We know what happens. But a part of our training is you should not have any funds with a negative balance unless it is a reimbursable grant and you are timely submitting your reimbursements and just waiting for that to come in. So if you have a reimbursable grant and you've paid out of the grant for whatever it is the claim is for, you've submitted it, you're just waiting for it to come in. When that reimbursement comes in, it's going to zero it back out. That's okay. We won't take exception to that. If that reimbursable grant runs in the red for 6 months, yeah, we're going to take exception to that. If it's past the time that you can even claim reimbursements, then we're going to take exception to it. As long as you're keeping up with your reimbursement claims and you're still within your period of availability, we will not take exception, but that's the only time. And the rest of the time, you have to have at least a zero to a positive fund balance. So in the same situation, let's say you had that claim for $500, and you look at your firearms training fund, you got $600, and then great, I got enough money to cover that, but you only have $300 of appropriation in that fund. Appropriation, again, is the permission to spend from the fund. In 3622 252B, it says that the county cannot disperse funds without an appropriation from the council unless there is a specific authority within the statute to do so. So for example, the commissary fund specifically says in statute that can be spent without appropriation. The accident report fund says specifically this can be spent without appropriation. If that phrase is not in the statute, you gotta have an appropriation. So if there is not a sufficient appropriation, doesn't mean that claim can't be paid, but you've got to get the supplemental or the additional appropriation approved. So you have to go to your council. If you've got $600 in there, you should be able to get the additional appropriation approved to cover that claim that you have. So you're going to have your departmental budget, which is either probably going to have your general fund or public safety lit or maybe a special purpose lit. You're going to have your additional funds that are going to have budgets for some specialized claims because they're special revenue funds. So where do these budgets come from? This was the one of the statutes I refer, well, the area I refer to, 3625, is the statute on budgeting for counties. Okay. So each year you submit a budget to your council for your department and jail operating costs, and that is for your, general fund budget, your public safety budget, any other fund that you're budgeting operating costs out of. If you have any other funds that you intend to use, you're going to do a budget for those and submit that to your fiscal body. Budgeting is not a simple calculation. There's a lot of work that goes into that, determining the budget. For your council, they have limited resources. If they didn't have unlimited resources, you probably wouldn't even need a budget. But they have to take what is available, for example, in the general fund and make sure that it is allocated properly so that everything is covered. And it's all very important. Public safety is very important. Highway and roads are very important. The general operating costs of the county, making sure payroll gets done, making sure claims get paid, all of that is important. And so they have to allocate that within the limited resources that they have. By statute, the tax levy on property taxes is controlled. It can't be anything we need it to be to fit that budget. Income tax rates are also limited. You can raise a certain amount by income tax. But that is also controlled by statute. So all of that has to go into the calculation. So the council will put together, set the budget, then they're submitted to the Department of Local Government Finance. They look through and make sure that, first of all, that the budget is fundable. They will not pass a budget that is not fully funded. So you have to show that you have either the fund balance or the anticipated revenues to fund that before they will approve it. If it is not, they will send it back and say to the council and say you're going to have to reduce it by whatever amount to make it fully fundable. And what those budgets and fund balances control is how much you can spend in the year. Again, the county does not have unlimited resources. They have to allocate it as best they can. And the budget helps control that. You wouldn't want it that way, but you don't want a free-for-all. You don't want everybody grabbing all the money in January and then by December there's nothing left. You have to follow your budget in order to make sure that all of the money is properly allocated throughout the year and all of the expenses to get paid. For most counties, payroll is a large amount of their expense. You've got to get your people paid, and so you've got to leave sufficient amount of money to make sure everybody gets paid. Usually supplies and capital assets or capital outlay kind of follow that a little bit, but they're usually where you're going to cut more than with the payroll. But again, you got to make sure that you're staying within those budgets. So the board, so we said the council does the budget. Your board of commissioners, that's the executive branch for the county. They oversee your contracts, your purchasing, approval of claims, and approval of grant applications. So you are already working with them. And the auditor is the fiscal officer for the county, and along with the treasurer, pays the claims of the county. The auditor's office is the one who's going to audit the claims before payment, issue the warrants, issue the payroll, receive the report of collections we discussed yesterday. So when you submit a claim for payment from your operating budget, whether it's in general or public safety or from a special revenue fund for a specific purpose or a grant fund, the auditor needs to audit the claim before payment can be processed. It's very important that you complete the form, the 17, the claim form, accurately, attach the supporting invoices, contracts, or any other documentation that's needed to show that that claim is complete, that it's accurate, that the amount is what is owed to the vendor. It needs to have the proper approval. So whoever within your agency is supposed to, whether it's a sheriff, whether there's a purchasing agent, whoever's supposed to sign off of that has to sign the appropriately to say that the goods and services have been received. And the two we talked about earlier, you need to make sure there's sufficient appropriations. Some of your budget is still left. Sufficient appropriation to cover that claim and sufficient cash balance to pay that claim. Again, the claims do need to be accurate. They need to be completely filled out, mathematically correct. So double check your numbers. Make sure everything's filled out. It will save time, because if the auditor has to send the claim back for some reason, that holds up the process. And getting claims through is not a simple process. It takes time to get it through the whole process. Once the auditor, make sure that everything goes, and it goes before the commissioners in a public meeting to be approved, then it comes back. The checks have to be issued by the auditor, co-signed by the treasurer, get in the mail and get issued. So it isn't an overnight process. So you want to make it go as smoothly as possible. In the same manner, payroll claims must also be completed. So make sure that they're accurate, that everything's on there that they need to determine that the payroll is correct. They're going to have to check it against the salary ordinance and make sure the appropriate amounts are being charged for the personnel. Overtime is accurate, everything is being done. Again, the appropriate people that need to approve that payroll need to sign off on that to make sure you have all of that done. And again, the more you do on the front end, the smoother it is to get all of that through. The sheriff pension funding is something we haven't really talked about up to this point, and I really don't spend a whole lot of time on it, but there is money that flows into that are appropriations made by the county, so the employer costs. There can be employee contributions to the fund. We did talk a little bit about the service of process fees and claims for service fees, and both of those, the statutes are here. Those are fees that go directly into the sheriff pension fund. Funds may be held temporarily in a fund on the funds ledger until they're moved they should be moved regularly to the pension trust itself. So you want to double check on that and make sure it's not getting stuck in a fund on the funds ledger. It needs to be moved into the pension trust fund. When the annual financial report is filed, there is additional information that must be disclosed on that pension fund. That is a fairly new requirement within the last couple of years. This information is now part of the notes of the financial statement. The notes of the financial statement are an integral part of the financial statement itself. It's part of what we put an opinion on. It must be included in there. And again, the information is audited. So there's new information that we are auditing that we probably have not audited in the past. So if you've been audited recently, you may have already run into this. So be aware of that. The auditor will be asking you information each year on the pension trust so they can load the information on Gateway. And then when we come out, they will be asking information probably from your, I can't think of the term, I want to say fiscal agent or actuary or yeah, some actuarial information that we actually do audit. So just be aware that there is additional information that we're going through on the audit process that is working its way into the financial report. And Ricky touched on this yesterday on federal and state grant monies. Again, these are should not be held at the department level. These should be on the funds ledger. So if the money is coming in, the auditor is going into the treasury, deposited by the treasurer, or direct payment into the treasury, and the auditor is then posting it to a specific grant fund. All grants should be on the funds ledger. If you have received grants, you need to make sure that you're getting copies of the information to the auditor so they have information on the grant. First of all, they need to know what to do when that money comes in. They need to know who that grant belongs to, so they know what fund to put it in. They also need to audit to make sure that the disbursements are in compliance with the grant agreement, because that is something we audit for, and you do not want to have any question cost on your federal audit of any of your grants. And finally, they need to have information like the CFDA number and the actual grant information and the award notification and the amount approved and the period of availability, a lot of the information that comes in that grant agreement in order to fill out a grant schedule. That's part of the annual financial report each year. And that probably takes them a lot of time because they're trying to track this information down. But they have to fill that grant schedule out for every federal grant that any department or office within the county has received. All of that has to be included. That information becomes the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, or CFA, if you've heard that title used. And that is also audited by us. And that information is transmitted to a clearinghouse for the federal government to review. They do review it. And even if you did not have, even if your grant was not a major program in the last audit, the grantor agencies, the federal agencies do review those grants. And I have seen where a unit has not gotten a particularly good federal report for internal control purposes or whatever, and they put a lot more restrictions on the grant funding. So it can affect your grant funding. So it's very, very important that they have the information they need to accurately complete that grant schedule. And we have the information we need to audit that. We already talked about advance and reimbursement grants. That's something they have to designate on that grant schedule, so make sure they know which one it is. Of course, in reimbursement grants, you're paying the county money first and then getting a reimbursement for that from the federal money to replace the county money that was used. If you get an advance grant, which aren't as common anymore, but you can still get it, you're getting the money up front. You're putting that in the grant and you're spending it out of that advance of money based on what your grant schedule shows. Okay, so finally, now we're back to the funds that are not on the funds ledger. And the auditor, again, needs this information to complete the AFR. It is not complete. The annual financial report is not complete without these supplemental funds. And it is a finding if these supplemental funds are not included. Commissary funds and inmate trust funds being the two most common for the sheriff. We look for those. I mean, we expect to see those. If your county has a jail, we're going to expect to see an inmate trust and a commissary fund. So if they're not there, we're going to be asking about them. One thing I like to point out, just we're working on this, and I'm not sure where it's all going to go, but we have seen in the last couple of years that community correction programs have started commissary funds for their programs. We do not, and Ricky pointed this out yesterday, we do not know of any statutory authority for anyone but the sheriff to have a commissary fund. We are working with Indiana Department of Corrections, Community Corrections Program to see how this evolved, why they need a commissary fund. In the meantime, our audit position currently is if Community Corrections should be, if they have a commissary fund, it should be part of the jail commissary or overseen by the jail commissary. So the sheriff needs to be aware of that. We know there are some counties where that was not the case, that the sheriff was not aware of this other commissary fund. But you need to be aware of it, and whether it really is like a sub-account of your commissary fund or you're overseeing it, you need to be aware of it, and this information needs to be reported on the AFR as well. If you have a juvenile correctional facility with an inmate trust, that should be included as well, because again, you're holding money in trust. The drug buy or confidential informant funds, technically they should be included. However, they usually are not material, and we're not going to take exception to the fact that they're not on that. If they're a large amount, like they're a material amount, they're part of like a drug task force or something, and they're like I said, a material amount, then you probably do want to include them. And you do not report your cash book on the supplemental AFR. The fees that were remitted to the county are reported as receipts in the other fund, so we don't want to duplicate that. So the cash book is not part of the supplemental AFR. We discussed yesterday, probably till you were ready to cross your eyes on financial transactions, what we expect during the audit, posting the ledger, reconciling your control and detail ledgers, reconciling to the bank. All of this needs to be done, and it also needs to be current up to the end of the year. If you don't have the current information, it's going to be very difficult to complete your supplemental AFR. It's all based on this information. So again, I can't emphasize enough, make sure you're keeping up on that, and that you certainly are caught up by the end of the year. So as we stated, the auditor starts first. They're going to upload their funds ledger information from their software onto Gateway. And this is going to show the beginning balances, receipts, disbursements, and ending balance for all of the funds that are currently on the funds ledger. For the supplemental funds, the auditor is going to have to reach out to all the departments that have supplemental funds and manually, or ask for the supplemental AFRs, and they're going to have to manually load in the information from the supplemental AFR for each of these offices. The supplemental AFR report is the form that's used to gather this information, and we're going to go over that report. The official responsibility for the custody of these funds, whoever is the official responsible for the custody of these funds, certifies the amounts reported on the supplemental annual financial report form. So the information reported on that supplemental AFR is very important as a whole. It should be accurate. The information should tie to your financial records, okay? And as the sheriff, you are certifying that the information is correct and ties back to your financial records. We have a template that you can use to complete this, and I don't know what your procedures are in the county. But you can always go to the SBOA website. The link is on here for our website. If you go to the county's page that Ricky showed you yesterday, under the political subdivisions menu, scroll down until you find the Gateway section. And if you expand the menu under Gateway, there's an annual financial report. You open the link for supplemental annual financial report and you get this template. You will download it. It's an Excel version, so you can do it in Excel. And then once you complete it, you'll need to either don't do it on the website, download it, and then save it either to your computer or send it electronically. You'll have to print it out to sign it unless you have some mechanism for doing electronic signatures in your county. But you can scan it back in and email it or whatever means you use to get it to your auditor's office. So this is what it looks like, what the template looks like. So it's not a real complicated form. It does not have the detail that the funds ledger has for all of the other funds. It's more limited in what it's providing. And I don't know if that's going to change in the future, but for right now, this is all that you have to provide. You will also find on the website instructions for completing the supplemental annual financial report. We're going to discuss how this form is completed. And regardless of who fills this form out, it's the same form for the sheriff, for the treasurer, for the clerk, for tourism, whoever's filling it out, it's always the same form. There's just one form, supplemental AFR. You may hear it referred to as the supplemental CAR. Before Gateway, the annual financial report used to be the county annual financial report, and so it was called the CAR. When we went to Gateway, we came up with an annual financial report that all units complete, so we got rid of the language. There's no longer a county one or a city-town one or a library one. There's just an annual financial report. But they're used interchangeably, and that's what they're talking about is the supplemental annual financial report. So the instructions, and I've kind of copied them here, they go over each section, what is required. In section 1, you're just filling out your information, the name of your county, your office, what you're completing, the 2020 information. You also need to complete the contact information for the person who completes the form, not only so that the auditor can reach back if there are questions about the information, but when we come into audit, so we can start with the person who completed the information so that we know where to start looking for our audit information. In the next section, you're going to complete the information on the fund or funds that are maintained in your office. So you're gonna have a separate line for the commissary fund, the adult inmate trust fund, and then any other funds if you have a juvenile inmate trust or tour or a community corrections commissary or something like that. Usually they're just gonna be the two lines. You do not list each bank account, you're listing each fund. So if you have two bank accounts because you changed software and you opened a new bank account for your new software but kept that old bank account for the transactions from your old software, that is still one fund. So you combine those together in the bank reconciliation and you're gonna list one fund. Again, we want what's on the funds ledger, not what's on the bank statement. Again, that bank statement is going to be different based on, we talked about yesterday with the reconciliation, based on timing difference, outstanding checks, deposits and transits, any kind of posting errors or things like that. We want what's on your records at the end of the year. So once you've identified each fund, you're going to put down the beginning and ending investment amount if you have any. I don't really think, I've never heard too many investments with commissary funds. So unless you have a whole lot of money, I can't imagine you're investing. If you are, you need to put it in, but probably not very common. If you have it, call us, we'll help you with that. And then you're gonna put down the cash, so leave zero. If you don't have an investment, just leave that zero, just leave it blank and go to the beginning cash balance, add in, that's on the next one. Yeah, beginning cash balance, your receipts into the fund, your disbursements out of the fund, all of this should come directly off your ledger, and your ending balance. And that ending balance should agree with your bank reconciliation, what you reconciled between your ledger for December 31st, okay? And the last part is the certification. So you're gonna print this out and certify that these records are correct. And then you're going to get this information to your auditor. So this is an example of one just filled out for Little Pleasant County. Remember, we only have 4 people in jail, so we're really small. So in this example, I made everything up. Sorry, you don't get to do that.
You also gave an extra cent on everything. Like,
gave him an extra.
Yeah, so like your disbursement's $409 and 225 cents, but you have a zero. Or if you go to the
That's 409,250. I hit the comma instead of the period. Sorry.
Oh, okay, so it's just a big number. I got you.
Yeah, sorry. So I only made the numbers up wrong. I put the wrong punctuation in. Okay, so after filling in the identification information, you're going to list the commissary fund. Then you're going to, I showed no investments. I just left that blank. So I put in the beginning balance, and this should tie, we're going to talk about this, should tie to my ending balance from last year. And then I put in my total receipts, my total disbursements, and then that ending balance. I do the same thing with the inmate trust. And then when I do this for 2021, I'm going to go back to this one. I'm going to start with those numbers in the ending cash balance column. That's what I'm going to start with next year, do my receipts and disbursements. So we do audit these. So that you should keep a copy, but your auditor's going to have a copy to show what was the source of what they manually loaded on Gateway for this information. And we're going to go back and audit this, and we're going to say, where did this number come from? Where did this number come from? And it needs to tie to your ledgers. If you have, and we're going to talk about it later, if you have any adjustments or anything you need to make, document it on your copy so that you'll remember what you did and you can explain if you had to make any adjustments or anything to it, why you did those adjustments. So what happens if you don't have the beginning balances? Where do you look? Hopefully you can find last year's report, but what if you didn't do a report last year? There are some counties that didn't have these on their Gateway. You should remember to keep a copy of your supplemental AFR going forward, but if you didn't keep it or you didn't complete it, you need to see what was done. So look and see if there was there would have been a finding, but findings can be corrected. So if the county was audited for 2019, go look for the audit report for 2019. It's possible that the field worked with you, determined what should have been on that supplemental, and put it in. So they would have numbers on that audit report. You can use that ending number. Okay. If there was an audit adjustment that was done to your funds, it would be on those financial statements. You can also look at, if you think it was done but you can't find your actual supplemental AFR, look at your report on Gateway that your auditor did for 2019. And Ricky's going to go over Gateway, but I think you can stop by and show them how to do an AFR. But you can pull up the AFR for any county, but you can pull it up and look at that and see what was actually reported. Most of the supplemental funds are always going to be towards the top of the funds ledger, because they're given very low numbers because they're not on the funds ledger themselves. So you can usually find them fairly quickly. I've got an example of an actual AFR. I just copied this, a screenshot out of an AFR. And again, like I said, the local fund numbers are, they're not on the funds ledger, so they don't have a fund number, so there's zeros on this. But you see where the big arrow on the left shows the sheriff commissary. I don't know why it's called 2, but it's sheriff commissary in this county. And you can see that in the ending cash balance for December 31st, 2019 was the $32,420, which is what we showed on our beginning balance for our 2020 report. And that's what I'm talking about. Go back to Gateway, pull it up and see what they put in it for the inmate trust, which is directly above it. It's showing $50,379.71. So that's what you're going to tie to. So the receipts and disbursements, where do you get those? And again, this comes from your financial records. So I know there are going to be issues when I say your beginning balance should tie to your previous year's report. That should be the same beginning balance on your financial records. If it's not, because there were adjustments made or something, there are things that we can do to correct that. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But look at your total receipts and disbursements out of the commissary ledger and also out of the inmate trust ledger control ledger. You want it in total. What was the total amount receipted in? This, again, these are not deposits off your bank statement. These are actual receipts into your ledgers and disbursements out of your ledgers. Depending on your software, you may have a report that generates this for you very easily, hopefully. Because if you have this, my opinion of a financial software, the thing it should be really good at is producing financial reports. And again, you just tell your software vendor you need something that shows the beginning balance, January 1st, 2020, receipts into the fund, disbursements from the fund, ending balance December 31st, 2021, or 2020. That's what you're looking for. If you're doing manual reports, you have the Form 205 and the Form 358, those ledgers. You should be keeping a running balance, but you probably do have to do a calculation. You know, depending on how you do it on the form, you might do each month, total your receipts and disbursements. So you might have to do a calculation to total them for the 12 months. And again, can't say it enough, do not use your bank statements to prepare the supplemental AFR. It must tie back to your ledgers. Okay. And then when you get to that ending balance, it should reconcile to your December bank statement. So when we come in, that's one thing we're going to check. What was the balance on the financial report? And does that tie, is that supported by your December bank statement, bank reconcilement? Once the report is completed, it should be reviewed by a separate person. This is an internal control. If you have someone else complete the report, it's like one person completes the report, maybe the sheriff wants to review it before certifying it, or they might have someone else knowledgeable about the funds complete the review, just that there's two parties doing it. In reviewing, what you're gonna do is you're gonna look at the balance on the prior report. Is that what's on the supplemental AFR? So you're just ticking in time, tracing that back. Then you're gonna trace the receipts and disbursements to the actual financial report that your software generated or to the ledger. You trace your ending balance, so that December bank reconcilement into the ledger balance. Then you wanna document that review. And internal control doesn't do you any good from an audit perspective if we can't see that you did it. So just telling us you did it isn't good enough. It really has to be documented. So, and document can be as much as your initials and the date that you reviewed it. And that it's approved. It could be that, it could be an email, hey, I looked over the report, it looks good, it's ready to send on, something that documents you reviewed and approved that report. Okay. The sheriff does need to certify it as the officer, and then that copy needs to go to the county auditor. What we have talked about with the treasurer and with the clerk, and now with you and with the auditors when we talk to them, it is the auditor's responsibility as the fiscal officer to provide the financial statements to us. And so when we come in, we're looking to make sure they're complete, that all of these supplemental reports are added. However, if they are not provided, if the auditor can show, hey, I asked for them on these dates and they were not provided by a particular office, then the finding goes against that office. The auditor has no access to these records, nor necessarily should they. They're not going to audit them for you. They're not going to reconcile them for you. They're not going to go back and do what should have been done during the year. They're asking you for that information. If you cannot provide that information, or choose not to provide that information, which no one does, then the finding would be against the office that failed to provide it. It is part of the financial statements. It does have to be provided. Okay. When they told the auditors, when they receive the information, they need to review it for reasonableness. So they're not trying to make sure it's absolutely perfect, but if they're looking at it and it just doesn't make sense to them, so, historically, I use like the treasurer. Historically, the after settlement collections have run about 300,000 every year, and all of a sudden it shows 3 million. And that's not reasonable. So you're going to reach back out at that point to the treasurer and say, is this like, did we type this in wrong or write this in wrong, or do you have? But if they come back, if that officer comes back and says, no, this is what it is, I'm certifying this is correct, that's what they're going to go with. And if it cannot be supported during the audit, again, the finding would go on the officer that certifies it. So it's very, very important that you make sure that you have reviewed it for accuracy, documented those reviews, keep a copy of what you sent, because if that's not what was in the final report, you can show what this is what you sent as available information. So that when it's reviewed for audit, we can deal with any discrepancies accordingly, and hopefully there won't ever be, everything goes smoothly. So what to do if you have issues? And again, the first one might be the ending balance in the prior year report is not correct. It doesn't tie to your financial data. So let's say you were having some problems last year, and so you had a number, you get the best available number, and since then you've done some work and that number just wasn't right. It was your best estimate at the time, but it is not going to be supported by the work that you've done then. So you need to complete your 2020 report, this year 2021 report, with the best information, with the correct information for 2021. And if that means that the beginning balance needs to be restated, then you need to do that, and you need to document on the AFR. This is why the ending balance, the beginning balance is not tied to the ending balance, because, and this is the correct amount. If it is a material amount, it may require a restatement of note disclosure. There's different ways that we can deal with that. If it's not a material amount, it may be an audit adjustment where we just kind of use the beginning balance and maybe adjust it through the receipts or disbursements. It's not just to bring it back to the correct ending balance. There are different ways that it can be handled. Your audit team will work with you on that, but make sure you're giving the accurate information at the time that you're filling it out. If your prior report, for example, used bank account statements and not ledgers, and you now know that you can't do that, so you're going to complete your supplemental AFR with the correct funds for this year. So if you used 3 bank accounts last year and you really just have the 2 funds, fill it out correctly for 2021. Put the 2 correct funds, put in the financial information directly from the ledgers. Also, always check to see if the corrections were made. It's possible that corrections were made, audit adjustments were made, and those corrections were made to the financial statements. So if you were audited for 2020, when you're doing your 2021, go back and look at that and see if there were some corrections. You should have been told that, but if may have been lost in communication, you can look at the audit report itself. So you're getting to the end of the year and your ledger is not reconciled to the bank and investment statements. If it is not reconciled, you still need to complete it as accurately as possible. You need still to apply the best available information. The fund still exists and it still has to be reported. Not reporting it is not an option. Contact us if you need advice for going forward. How close are you? If it's not a material amount that your variance is, go with what you can verify the correct amount to be. Okay, but don't give up and don't say, well, I don't know what it is, so I'm not going to turn it in. You still need to report on these funds. Any questions on any of that?
We don't have any questions yet, but I have a question. And you may have said it, but I answered a couple emails while I'm in there. So my question is only because we do review some of these reports that come in. And so we know they keep a sheriff's cash book. So why don't they turn their sheriff cash book?
Because the fees that they're collecting are already reported.
Right.
I did say that.
Did you say that?
While you were filling in the email.
Sorry.
Yes. And it's like, and there's no need to overstate receipts, because if you've received the fee and we put it in the cash book and then the fee is reported in your vehicle inspection fund again, we don't want it reported twice, and that's why we don't include the cash book. I mean, there are other funds that run through the cash book, but they're not material enough for you to have to separate it all out and just report those others.
Yeah. Sorry. No problem. So we'll give it a few seconds. You guys have any questions about the supplemental AFR? It's clear as can be. No questions. Awful quiet today.
I know.
They're just waiting for Gateway.
Gateway's the fun stuff.
Look at that, you finished early and everything. Hold on a minute, I see a T. I don't know what that means.
Tea.
Just tea.
I don't know.
Like spill the tea, as my son likes to say.
For now, thank you. Too much. There's a lot of things we can get with tea.
Okay. Give it just a few more. I want to make sure to get everybody's questions addressed before we move on. I just think they're saving them all for Gateway.
I think so, because Gateway is the hot topic.
Sorry, our auditor reports ours to Gateway. So they enter all that information into the Gateway for the supplemental. Yeah.
Yes, the auditor does that part.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're the only ones that have access
Yes.
to be able to do that. So.
You have read access to the reports, but you don't have access to the annual financial report.
Oh, you know what? How about I just show you how to do this? This one says I cannot find the supplemental form on the website. So what if I just share my screen and let me show you how to do it.
The plan?
In that plan, we got some time.
Works good.
Okay, let me go to the main. This is our homepage. Okay. All right.
There's audit reports. Show that one too.
Ooh, I can show audit reports too.
Yeah,
I'll come back to that one. Let's do this other one first. Okay, so again, you always have to pick political subdivisions because obviously we work with many units. And you want to pick counties. And sorry, I'm not used to using this little thing on my. Okay, so it's on the county's page itself, okay? You'll come down and there's this little section that says Gateway, okay? All right, so you want to go to the first one, the annual financial report, because what you are giving them is going to become part of the annual financial report. That's why we call it the supplemental. If you scroll down just a little bit here, look right here. We've got supplemental annual report, and these are the instructions to it. I think it'll just download to my machine.
Yeah.
You can print this, make copies of it every year, or you can come and download it every year. I don't know that we change it very often, but if we were to change it, we would let you know. And so there, you can't see that because I'm sharing the other thing. So anyway, it downloads and it's just an Excel file like what she showed. Okay. The other thing, since we're at our website, gives us a little bit of time, audit reports. So you guys are audited as part of the county. So if there would be any findings that would be on the sheriff's department, they would be part of the county's audit report. So the county audit report, or all audit reports here, once they are they're completed and all that work, they are a public document once we are finished, okay? And we actually have a database for them. And it's really kind of nice to use, and if I do that box, it has kind of a search. I always start with county over here. So we're only bringing up county. And then you go and you find your county. We're going to start with Clinton because it's the one I ended on. Okay, and then you will scroll down inside here. The links are right here on the side, okay? So if you were looking for a specific finding, like for your office, you should know it because you would have done an exit conference with them and they would have shown you the findings. Anyway, it's put into the supplemental audit report. I am not calling out Clinton County for any reason. I just stuffed on them. So, I won't go all the way down. I'll just go to the table of contents, maybe. Right there. All right, so in this case, the sheriff's department did not have a comment. So if they had, you would see a section that said county sheriff, and then underneath of it would list what audit results and comments were included in this report. If there is nothing here, that means there were no findings. That's a good thing, okay? We are a reporting agency, so we always report I guess the bad things.
The negative.
The negative. We don't report the positive. So when you don't see anything in here, it's a good thing, okay? All right, now if I can stop sharing, go back to
another question. Our inmate trust funds are handled by our jail staff and our booking area. Is this the correct way it should be handled? However you organize for your office that suits your resources and staff, we're not going to take exception to. So yes, that's fine.
Right. Write it down real quick. Jail staff in the booking area. Okay. I'm writing them down because I'm trying to save them as in the chat log, but just in case, I want to make sure I have both. Questions, like I said, they updated WebEx. Okay, any other questions? Okay. Or how many just want to move on to Gateway?
Yay, Gateway!
Or, Gateway. Okay.
I love Gateway.
All right, I'm going to close my little chat box here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on to Gateway. Here's what I'm going to preference. I did put a presentation together. We're going to start kind of going through it a little bit, and then the rest of it, like the last half of the presentation, is really a how-to. Instead of doing a how-to through a presentation, why don't we just actually walk through it, do examples, let me show you what it looks like. You'll then have the presentation when you're doing it on your own to refer back to. I'm hoping that might be a little bit more beneficial than just going through slides. Okay, maybe. All right, we're going to share. Okay, I can't remember how I did this. have to. No.
Just left it in regular view.
Oh, because we didn't have the notes, right?
Yeah.
That's right. I forgot. I don't like not having my notes. I gotta figure that part out. Okay. Alright, let me move some boxes out of the way. Do you think they fixed that in Gateway? Used to, if you had anything open on top of it, you guys would just see boxes, so that's good. Okay, so Gateway. If I had you in a room, I'd say, show of hands, how many people's uploading to Gateway? I'm gonna guess it would be few and far between because we really haven't trained on this for you guys. So as Lori was kind of talking about the AFR, Gateway kind of came to be so that we can get information readily and make it readily available, and so we can get our financial statements. As we were kind of moving forward, we were thinking, how can we really utilize this website, okay? And all this kind of started before I came up, or before I sat in this position when I was a field examiner. And so when it originally got started back in 2018 is when I think the first one went out. The thought was, let's just get some really basic information out there. And so we were just kind of like really kind of sticking our toe in the water, you know, seeing what we've got, what we want. As things happened in 2020, I hate to say it, and we're going to use it, it kind of forced us to take a look at remote auditing a little bit more. We were kind of already there as far as doing some remote auditing, but obviously when everything shut down, we became 100% remote. Our field examiners were doing everything remotely. How do we get them how do we get the information? You know, that kind of became a thing. And how do we make sure it's secure? Okay, so, you know, you guys are putting some stuff up here that you don't want to just throw it over an email. I mean, that's not really a secure method. And so we already had Gateway started, and we thought, let's improve on this, okay? Because remote auditing is probably not going to go away. Like Lori said, right now, I believe it's 2 days. I think they're doing 2 days on site, 2 days off site. That, you know, can be adjusted depending, you know, if you want them on there more, not less, but if you want them on there more, they can kind of come. But so Gateway was kind of an avenue of getting them the information, allowing them to have it remotely and not having to ask you for everything. Because if you've been through an audit, and especially when we're doing it, you know, we understand you have a job to do and we need to work with you to do that. But sometimes we're bothering you a lot. You know, we need this and we need these bank statements and we need these receipts and we need this and we need that. And you're trying to get all of that together while you're trying to do your job. And so we understand that it can be a little bit time consuming. And so this kind of, I think, eases that a little bit. It is something you have to do every month, but once it's there, that information is available to us whenever we need it, okay? So, again, we started it in 2018. Oh, there we go. So, what it really is, and I'm going to close that, okay. So what is Gateway? As we talk about it, it really is a collection platform. It's used by all local units of government to submit whatever required data is, okay, to us. This does have a public access side, okay? So there's really two sides to Gateway. There is a public side, which I'm going to show you. So you can look at some of the stuff, not other offices, but the county itself, like the AFR that's been submitted, you can see that stuff. You can look at that. There are things like that you can look at. There are things that you cannot look at. So if you're uploading your bank statement, and we'll get to that later, that's not a public feature. So the public is not going to be able to see that information, okay? It does help provide transparency of public funds. It gives a place for your citizens to go look, see what's going on in the unit of government they're looking for. In this case, it would be counties. It's just a way to have all of your information out there. Transparency is very important. And it's not just used by us. It's used by several agencies. I only put us and DLGF on here because that's the most common that you're really going to hear us talk about. But there are a few other, and I'll show you that when I pull the website up. And we do try not to ask the same. So each agency tries not to ask you for the same exact information. I lost my mouse. Oh, there it is.
Cat got it.
All the things not. There we go. Okay, so this kind of came up in the chat while Lori was talking, is access. I actually put 2 of these slides in here with the same information because it's so important and I get asked about access all the time. So the access needs to be, the sheriff needs to reach out for access, okay? So as sheriff, you're gonna send an email to this email address, which is thegateway@sboa.in.gov, and give them the information below. So your name, basically what position you're elected, that tells them what access you're needing, so your sheriff, what your first day of your term is, an outgoing official's name, an email if you know it, if you know the email, and then the outgoing official's last day of term. This just makes the process a lot smoother. That's all the information they require to set up the account for you. The sheriff is the one who gets the access first. The reason for this is you are what we're going to call the submitter, okay? The submitter is always the elected official. It probably not a great name for, for you guys because you are uploading things, but you're not really submitting it, if that makes sense. But so they are the submitter. They cannot delegate the submitter access. It can only be the sheriff, okay? So you would be the submitter. But you can delegate edit access, okay? So as sheriff, if you're saying, I am not spending every month uploading these reports that I don't work on, it would be better for Lori, my, whoever who's doing the, commissary, to go ahead and upload those since she has them readily available. They can get delegated to do that. To do that, you need to go onto the Gateway website, and I'll show you where it's at, and there's a delegation form, okay? If you fill that out, you get that submitted, and then whoever you're wanting to delegate will get access to Gateway, okay? But it has to be initiated by the sheriff. All right. So one important place, and I cannot stress enough how important this is. Most of this presentation comes from the user guides, okay? Once you get into Gateway, and again, I'll show you where this is, there is a user guide, okay? There's a user guide for the monthly and annual engagement uploads. It tells you what you need to upload. It gives a description of what those things are. It has a step-by-step guide on how to do it as well. So if you lose this presentation or you forget what we go over today, it is a great tool, okay, to use. So we always steer everybody over there. We also have other user guides for the annual financial report and the 100R, although those would fall on the auditor, so you wouldn't have access to those, but just know that they're there if you ever had any questions, or just some light reading with your internal control manuals. When we go into Gateway, I told you there's different agencies that use Gateway. So if you look on the main screen, and again, I'll show you, we each kind of are a different color. So I just wanted to show you State Board of Accounts is this, like, I think it's more of a rusty red color, not just red, but that's us. I think DLGF is green, I think, right? I think there's school, or not, is it schools are blue, or is that B&B? I don't remember. So, but anyway, you'll look for that heading, for what, so that you can do your uploads, because we're the ones that are requiring those monthly and annual uploads.
So much you can use your arrow keys.
I know it keeps like leaving. There we go. All right, so who uploads into Gateway? All right, so obviously your auditor does. We talked about that. They're going to submit the 100R, which.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
If the sitting sheriff has delegated submitting of forms to another person, they've delegated, that person has their own sign-in. When a new sheriff is elected, do you have to go through the process all over again, or can you continue to upload under your current login?
You should go over the process all over again. It's a new sheriff. They become the new submitter. Okay, so what they could do is like fill out the delegation form and say they've already got access, but we want her to maintain it, that something needs to be submitted. This isn't us that does this, but I believe that once the new sheriff, submits for access, because they have to get access first, it erases all the past history. So anybody they delegated, all of that. Okay, I think they can bring it back, but I don't really know that for sure. But it needs to be done every time a new sheriff comes in. Okay, is that the only question you got?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so again, who uploads in Gateway? So we talked about a county auditor. The county auditor does have monthly and annual uploads, just like you. They also do, again, the AFR, which is your annual financial report, and they do the 100R. And in case you're curious, the 100R is really a listing of everybody that works for the county, their name, their position, and their salary, or what they've made. County treasurer, recorder, and clerk also have monthly and annual uploads that they do, along with the sheriff. This may grow as time goes on, but right now we've really just started with these 5. Okay, so now I just kind of want to briefly go over what you're going to upload. Okay, so these are just monthly uploads. So for the monthly uploads, you're going to do the bank reconciliations, your bank statements, outstanding checklist, and a cash balance report. So again, this comes straight from the user guide. I don't want to read the whole thing to you. But it's a bank reconciliation. So, as Lori was going over yesterday, this is something that ties your bank account to your ledger. Okay, so it can be done on an Excel sheet. It can be done if you have a software. Sometimes some softwares have a template that you can input things in. But we are looking for that reconcilement. Okay, it should show all of your identified variances. And like Lori said, if you have an unidentified variance, which means you're not reconciled, it should show that as well. You should be uploading whether you're reconciled or not each month. Okay, obviously you're working towards getting that reconciled, but you still need to show what you have, for each month. Okay, so along with the reconcilement, now we want to see your bank statements. This is one of those things where this is not public, okay? This is, nobody can see that but us, all right? And we only have this read-only access, so we can't go in and change anything. So we want to see your bank statements. Your bank statements are going to tie to your bank reconciliation. So if we were on site doing an audit, we're looking at your reconciliation, we are going to pull your bank statement and make sure that that ties to what you used inside your bank reconciliation, okay? It needs to have everything. So it should be all your transactions in there, the pictures of your checks, okay? If you can get front and back, that is really preferred. But we want to see everything. The entire bank statement should be uploaded, or multiple bank statements. So if you have one for commissary and one for inmate trust, we would want to see both of those. Same thing with the reconciliation. I saw a question.
I already submit our cash book, bank statements, and reconciliation report to Gateway at the end of each month. Is that changing?
No. Nope, not changing. Not changing at all. I'm glad that you're doing it though, so I give you a gold star. Okay, so just with the bank statements, we're also going to want to see an outstanding checklist. Okay, so this is a list of checks that you have written out that have not cleared your bank yet. They are going to be a reconciling item. Almost every bank reconcilement has outstanding checks, so we're going to want to see that list. Okay, we're going to see how that list ties back to your reconcilement. So whatever number you use as outstanding checks on your reconcilement, this should be the detail of how you came back to that number. Okay. And then we have the cash balance report. We tried to be very kind of generic in that term and then just define what we meant inside of all of that. So in this case, we're looking for 3 things. Your sheriff's cash book, so that's your Form 54. We're looking for the Form 205, that's the ledger of receipts, disbursements, and balances for the commissary. And then the inmate trusts ledger is the 358, and I'll show you some examples here in a minute. So these are going to be the 4 things that you're going to upload monthly, okay? What we want is we want to see a bank reconcilement, bank statement, outstanding checklist, and the ledger for each one. Okay, now if you don't, obviously for your sheriff's cash book, you probably don't have a bank account, but maybe you do. Maybe you're only turning into the auditor monthly. You should still be reconciling that. There should still be things there. So we still want to see that. We want to see that you're maintaining that cash book properly, even though you're turning over most of the stuff over to the auditor. Okay?
We have a question.
Yeah.
I submit a bank reconciliation sheet from cash book and my cash book to Gateway each month, but I have never submitted bank statements. Do I need to start doing that now, or do I have to go back and submit these for each month that has passed?
Okay, that's a common question. So what we would recommend right now is you need to go back to January of 2021. Okay, have them available for the audit of the 2021. At this point in time, doing 2020 isn't really a priority because they've already started those audits. A lot of audits, county audits are, I think, completed for the most part, so it really wouldn't be beneficial to us to go back that far, but do start with January of 2021 and move forward. Okay, so when we talk about these cash balance reports, we also use, and we talked about it yesterday several times, we just want to keep reiterating it, okay? These forms are the prescribed form. So State Board of Accounts or BOSSI, as we said yesterday, and we prescribe the forms that you use. That doesn't mean you can't get an alternate form approved, okay? Whether that's through a software that you're using, or you could have another form if you wanted. If you're going to have that, that's fine. You just need to know that what alternate form takes the place of Form 54? What alternate form takes the place of 205 and 358? Okay, so we would be looking for those. I know a question just came in, so.
What is the definition of cash book for commissary and inmate trust fund account, if there is one?
There's not really a cash book for them. It's really just a ledger. Okay? And really what we're looking for is we're looking for your balances, what you're bringing in as your receipts, what you're dispersing out, and what your ending balances are. It's just really a big ledger.
Where do we find these forms? We currently use Form 358 for both the commissary and cash book.
Okay. I'm going to go through examples of these forms. Let me do that, and then I will tell you where you can get them from. How about that? Okay. So here is the sheriff's cash book. It is a long form, okay? Really, if you printed this out, I think it's like, I don't know if you measure in hands, but I think it's like pretty big. From what, and I have audited this big form, these big books that you're flipping out. Okay, but this is what that prescribed form looks like, okay? Here is the prescribed form for the commissary. You can Lori kind of showed it yesterday. You can see it's got the code sections where you would write the 1 through 9 in the statute, which one you're using for the disbursement. So all of that's available there. And then I have a sample of the 358, which is the inmate trust. Okay, what you would use for your inmate trust fund. So these forms, if you would notice, we've put sample across all of that. While we prescribe the forms, these forms are not something we give out. It's something that if you were going to use the paper form, okay, the handwritten ledger, then you need to get in contact with your county print vendor, all right? If you don't know who that is, talk to your auditor. They'll get you in contact with them, and they will provide the forms for you. At a price, obviously.
Yes.
So just so you know, but that is where you will find those. We can give you samples, that's what we have here, but we're not going to actually give you the form. I saw some other stuff.
Anyone watching that uses Bend Engine, which I assume is a software that could help me with the uploads to Gateway. And Tina says she can and gives her information.
Okay, so it's just that. I like it. I'm going to make sure I don't have I got something here, something for lockdown. Oh, because it's private. Hold on a minute. If you guys can send a chat to everyone, that way, otherwise Lori can't see it. Okay. Oh, okay, I see. Hold on a minute. I got a couple questions that are back up here. I apologize if you thought I missed you. I didn't mean to. Okay. Here's the first one. All right. I thought that I was required to submit sheriff's commissary fund amounts semi-annually. Okay. So what we're talking about are two different things. There is a semi-annual commissary receipts, disbursements, and balances that you turn into the council semi-annually, okay? This is what you submit monthly, and it's more detailed because we want the ledger, we want the bank reconciliation, we want the bank statements, we want the outstanding checklists, okay? So they're two different things, but yes, it's still a requirement. Okay. I had one more. All right, if new to the role of matron, where can a verify the program we are using has been approved? We use Lockdown. Okay, so we'll go over this again too. We do not approve financial software. We do not approve financial software. There's not going to be a software that's approved to use. That is a county decision, so you need to look at the softwares that you use, determine if they meet what they, the standards that you need them to meet. Do they have the functionality that you need? Do they have these kinds of reports available? A lot of times if they don't have them and you say, hey, I've got to have something that has this information on it that I can print out, they can create that through their software, so you'd have to work with them to get the reports that you need. Okay. Let me see where I'm at because I'm not even using my notes. Okay, so you have these four things that you're going to upload monthly, okay? I'm just gonna use my arrow. Will that work? No? Sometimes the arrow works, sometimes it doesn't. All right. You do have an annual upload that you need to upload as well. So at the end of the year, normally it's not due until when the AFR is due. So as Lori said, unless it's a leap year, that's March 1st. Okay, so what you're going to be uploading is the inmate trust fund subsidiary detail. This would be a list of all the inmates, okay, through December 31st of that year and their balances, okay? There, I just took that straight out of the user guide. So it includes your inmate name, the number, the account balance at the year end. This should agree to the fund balance. So when you're turning in your control ledger for inmate trust monthly, because you're not doing the detail monthly, just the control ledger monthly, the detail should agree to the control ledger that you're uploading for December. Okay, so two should be in agreement. And again, would fall over to your also your reconcilement. Okay, so all of that should be in agreement at the end of the year. Now, I keep saying monthly because there is a monthly upload, but you are not going to upload, see, we're in November. So in December, you do not upload November's. I know it sounds crazy, but we wanted to give you a little bit of time, okay? So, I mean, if that's, you can see that screen a little bit better, maybe. Oh, sorry, I went too far. Okay. All right, so these are the monthly due dates. All right, so in March 15th, that is when your January files are due. April 15th is your February files. Okay, so it's really like you have a couple months before you need to get that out. So especially if you're not reconciled or you're having a bit trying to reconcile January, you got a little bit of time. You got a buffer to try and figure that out before you get them uploaded. And as I said earlier, if you've not uploaded anything yet, or you didn't upload everything yet, you do need to go back to January of 2021 and get updated or uploaded from January 21 to current. All right. So that's for the monthly. Again, these are all in the user guide. The annuals we talked about is due 60 days at the close of the fiscal year. So typically March 1st, unless it's leap year. All right, so before we get to the exercise, I do have just these are frequently asked questions that come up all the time. So, do I need to purchase or install any computer software? No, this is all done through the internet. You'll just log into the website and you'll be able to do it. Okay, again, I took these straight out of the user guide as well, Lori. Look at me.
Wow.
I know. I will say that Chrome does seem to work better with Gateway. That seems to be the preferred browser, but you can use like Firefox. I know Internet Explorer is not really supported anymore, and there are some problems with that one. When you're trying to upload it, you may run into some issues. So if you call us because, hey, I can't get this to upload, the first thing we may ask you is what browser are you using? Because in all honesty, it makes a huge difference, even for us. Okay, so why must documents be uploaded into Gateway? And again, we kind of talked about this earlier. It's to allow us to do as much audit work remotely as we possibly can. Really, this kind of leads to some efficiencies, not only in the audit, but for you too. You've already given the information. It's already there. So what we're going to be coming and asking you for is going to be more minimal than if we're coming and asking you for everything, because you've already provided it. Okay. All right, we talked about this too. So are the documents uploaded through Gateway application for monthly and annual engagement uploads available to the public? And the answer to this is no. All right, so these documents are only able for you to view them and for State Board of Accounts to view them, okay? They do not become part of the public side of Gateway. Again, you're uploading bank statements and stuff. You do not want that to be public information out there, okay? We want to keep your information as secure as possible, and Gateway allows us to do that. All right, this is the best one. So if you have problems or questions, who should I contact? All right, so this is really, if you have a technical issue, you can't log in. Again, the browser's not working. There just seems to be something wrong with the application itself. Then you need to reach out to one of these contacts below here, okay? IBRC, okay, this is the Indiana Business Research Center. They put our Gateway together for us, okay? So we contract with them to keep this site really running and to do all of the formatting, and they do all that fancy behind the scenes stuff that I don't know how to do. We do have a Gateway help desk, so we do have somebody here who can help you with some of the technical things, or maybe you don't know how to do something exactly when you're inside there. That would be a great place to go, would be the Gateway help desk. IBRC is more technical problems, you get errors or problems with saving data, things like that. If you have a reconciling question or an accounting kind of question about your uploads, it'd be Lori and I, okay? Like I said, we can actually log in and see everything that you're uploading. We can walk through it with you. We can't change your data or anything like that, but we do have access to see it, okay? All right, this is where I'm gonna cut off my presentation. So we kind of talked about the access. So let me stop sharing that. Okay, right there. Okay. Let's just walk through all of this. Okay. Oh, this is sharing, okay. So, when you open up Gateway, and we're gonna pretend that you already have access at this point, okay? So if you don't, get busy today, this afternoon, and start getting that access together, okay? But when you go to log in, this is really the main screen that you're gonna see in Gateway. Before I show you how to log in, I thought we would talk about the public side so you can kind of see what you can look at just if you're curious. So really, there are all kinds of things on here. Not everything is really for us, but or what we would typically use. So what I'm going to lead you through is the search reports right here. If you click on this, this is the public side of Gateway. Anybody has access to this. Anything in this menu can be seen by anybody. It's public information. So if you are wanting to look at the annual financial report of your county, you can click on that. You do a couple different things. I'll lead you through both. So you can scroll down here and you can decide what part. The annual financial report, there are lots of moving parts that create this. Okay, so what specifically are you looking at? Most of the time, it's cash and investments. That's the report most people want to look at. But you could pull the whole thing down in total, but it's huge. I'm just going to tell you. But if you clicked on like cash and investments report, we're going to look at Adams County because, well, they popped up first. That way Clinton County doesn't feel attacked. They don't feel attacked. So it's Adams County. Okay. So you have to select the unit type, which is a county. Once you do that, you do have to select Adams County, okay, to kind of drill down. And then you have to click View Report. Okay. This is going to generate to you what was reported on for their cash and investments. It gives the beginning balance, receipts, disbursements, and ending balance for each fund. If you look at the top, inmate trust and sheriff commissary will always be up here towards the top. Okay, so it could be first and second, it could be, third and fourth, but it's always going to be in one of these like really, top 5 or 6 funds. Okay, so anyway, you can kind of see what their balances were for the year, but this goes for the entire county ledger, so all the funds are represented here. And you can go and there'll be a total at the bottom. Okay, so you have access to all of that. I'm going to just show you one of these really quickly, if it'll let me. Okay, so this would be the report in total. It's the same thing. You select your county, what year you're looking for. Right now, we only have through 2020 because 2021 has not been completed yet. And if you were a person, I'd say, when's it going to be completed? March 1st. I need to get you doing that.
I need a phone breaker if I'm going to do that.
Okay, and so this is what it looks like. This will be like the first page. And you can kind of go through it that way. There's the one we pulled up separately. Here would be your detail of receipts and so on and so forth. But it is very long. I know this says this 4 over here does not mean there's only 4 pages. Just FYI. You can also from here, if you see this little disc, you can click on it, and it does let you download it so you could download it in Excel if you wanted to just see it like that. Sometimes it's easier to look through in a different format than it is right here on the website. So all of that information is public. You should be able to go and see that. You can also just search by unit. So, we did Adams County, so let's do White County, just because they're at the end of the alphabet. Get everybody in between. You could just say, hey, White County, I want to look at what their reports are, select it, and now this is only White County's information down here. So if you were going to pull the cash and investments, it's already pre-populated up in the search. Okay. All right. Oh, I'll go back to that. Okay, so from here, not only do you have the annual financial report, you do have a few other things here. And they are kind of color coordinated. So the ones that are like this rusty red color are things that we require, State Board of Accounts. So when I was talking about the 100R, this is the employee compensation report. So if you wanted to look at another unit to see what, maybe a matron was making over at another county, you can look there. The E1 here, this is really for organizations that receive governmental funding, but this wouldn't be anything, there'd be no county information there. The green is really DLGF. So if you were curious about what budgets got approved, that kind of thing, you could go and you could look in there. There's property tax information. I mean, there is just a wealth of information. And again, all of this is on the public side of Gateway, so it's available to everybody, okay? Just an interesting little resource if you were ever interested in looking at it. All right. I'm assuming we're no questions.
Not yet.
Okay.
Not to me.
Not on the public side. All right. What you're really interested in is the non-public side of Gateway, right? All right. So you have emailed the Gateway Help Desk. You have gotten access as sheriff. Sheriff is delegated to whoever in their office is going to be uploading this information. Now what? Okay. So again, you're going to come to this page, and as you can probably guess, you're going to go right here to the local officials login. All right. Like I said, Lori and I have our own access. It is a read-only access. Again, I have to reiterate that a lot. We cannot change your numbers, okay? Nor should we be able to. So once you get here, you'll enter your username and password inside there. And like I said, Firefox and Chrome are your best ones. And it's going to open you up to this page. If I'm going too fast, all you have to do is yell, slow down. All right, so from this page, there are several things you can do. One thing I want to point out in the beginning is, remember I kept talking about user guides? That's a great resource. We use that sometimes to answer questions. We really do keep that up to date with anything that's changed on the site, all that how-to, so that you have that information available and you're not waiting on an email or a phone call back from us if you're stuck. If you click user guides, it brings open this, and you can pick the user guide you're wanting to look at. So in this case, it would be monthly and annual uploads. We have a jump menu right here. So if you were really interested in just the monthly upload, you could click there. It'll take you straight down to it. If you scroll down just a little bit further, right here, you can see that each month the county treasurer, recorder, county clerk, and county sheriff are required to upload the following, okay? And it gives you that detail of what we gave you earlier, okay? The due dates are all in here. And again, I'm just going to do this really quickly because we're going to walk through it. But if you can kind of see there's screenshots, it's really a how to do it. Annual goes all the way down, okay? So again, great resource. Really, it can almost answer every question. Almost. Okay. That's really the user guides that you're going to look at. So we're going to go home. That takes us back to this screen once you've logged in. All right, again, if you remember, I told you Department of Workforce Development's blue. I knew somebody was blue.
Somebody's blue.
Somebody's blue. So here, I guess Indiana Employment Relations Board is too, just a lighter blue. So as you can kind of see, different agencies use this for different things. The red is State Board of Accounts. So all of these things underneath here are what is required to be uploaded for the State Board of Accounts. So you will come to this menu when you go to upload. You will select monthly and annual uploads because that's really the only place you're going to upload anything.
It's the only place you can.
Yeah. Okay, well, conflict of interest, but we'll get there. Okay, once you do that, it's going to come up like this. Your list will look different than this. Again, these are all sample units. These are things that Lori and I use to play with. Once a function is introduced into Gateway, sometimes Lori and I go in and play with that function, make sure it works the way it needs to work. Or we can kind of do walkthroughs. I can get screenshots from it. So these are like us pretending to be you and uploading kind of a thing. So yours is going to look different. yours will look like, it'll say your county. So if it's White County, it's going to say White County dash County Sheriff. All right, so that's what you're going to look for. It should be the only thing that's there that's available to you. If not, you might need to tell us so we know why. But you really should just have the one. So your county name and then county sheriff. So you'll click on that. Once you click on that, it brings up these years. We've been doing it since 2018, so that's still available, okay, on there. Currently, like I said, we don't want you to go backwards. So just start January 1st of 2021 and carry forward. So you really just want to stay in the 2021 box. All right. All right, so this is really the main event here, right? This is where
the magic happens.
The magic happens. I feel like we need a song or something for that. So this is going to be your page. This is where all the uploading is going to occur. All right. So in this, as you're kind of looking at it, you really kind of where this light blue is here, this is where you do the uploading. So if you're going to do, depends on what month, let's just stick with the monthly uploads right now. Each month you need to pick the month that you are uploading. So if it's March and you're uploading your January, then it needs to say January here, okay? It's just a drop down box so you can pick what you're going to upload, okay? So you say January. Now again, so for monthly, you only have 4 things. You have your bank statement, you have your bank reconcilement, you have your outstanding checklist, and then you have your cash balance report or your ledger, okay? I say 4 things, but remember, you've got the cash book, the sheriff cash book, you've got the commissary fund, and you have the inmate trust fund, okay? So you need to upload all of that stuff. You can do this a couple different ways. You need to also select, as you're getting started, what are you uploading? Are you uploading bank reconcilement, bank statements, outstanding checks, or are you doing the cash balance report? Okay, now, let's say you've done your bank reconcilement for the commissary. You got your bank statements, you got your bank reconcilement, you got your outstanding checklist. You have maybe done it in paper and you've scanned it into your computer and you've made it one document. Is that okay to upload it as one document? Yes. Okay. I don't have it separately. Maybe you have it stored as 3 separate documents on your computer. Then you would just upload it 3 different times, okay? So each time, so if you were going to do the bank reconcilement, you would click this, you would choose the file, make sure it says bank reconcilement on it. Maybe probably bank reconcilement commissary would be more helpful, so we know which fund that it is. And then when you go to do the bank statement, you would select the same thing here. Choose that bank statement file, upload it. Same thing for outstanding checks. So it can either be one file or it can be multiple files. Hopefully that's clear. This drop-down menu does not mean that you only can upload one thing for that. All right. So in your case, if you had one document for the inmate trust, the commissary, and the sheriff's cash book, then you may only have 3 documents that you're going to upload in there. But if you do 3 separate documents for each one of those, you may have 9. There's not really a limit there. Okay, we just want to see that you're uploading. If you're doing your cash book or you're doing the other ledgers for the commissary, the inmate trust, you're going to want to select this cash balance report. All right, so that's how you choose it, or what the file type is. Then obviously you need to choose the file. That is where you saved it on your computer. I always kind of chuckle because when we first started Gateway, one of our girls used to say, "Don't call me and to ask me where your file is." So make sure you remember where you saved your file because we can't help you with that part, okay? So it's good to have it organized, someplace on your computer and easily accessible so that you can find it. So just remember where you saved it, okay? Once you choose that file, so let's just do one for January here. All right. Oh, it didn't bring it there. Okay. All right, so I have an example of a bank reconcilement. So I chose my file. You can't see me doing this because I can't share this part of my screen. There it is. Okay. And you're going to open it. You can see that it came right here. The name of the file that I chose is right here. All right. Well, now I've chosen the file, but you still have to submit it in order for it to be uploaded. So you need to click the submit button right here. All right, then you should get this little drop-down box that says submit successful. All right, so now how do I know it was successful, right? You're gonna scroll down to January or whatever month you're doing. You can see I've already played with it once, and you can see, oh look, right there. I uploaded that example bank reconcilement today at 10:55 a.m. All right, so you're going to do that for each month. Make sure, so when you do your cash balance reports, they will actually show up right underneath here. So like, let's just do that again real quick. Cash balance report. Forms. Going to, you can see that I changed it. Again, it's just a dummy document. I'm going to submit it. Tells me the submission was okay. And then you see how it populated right down here in the cash balance reports. Okay. Hopefully everybody's following me so far. So you're going to do that for each of the months. Now, as you come down here and you look, if you noticed, my red X's that were over here turned into green check marks. What does that mean? Does that mean that you have submitted the correct documents? No, it does not. It is really just for you to take a quick look to see if you uploaded that month. Was there something uploaded in that section as required? Okay, it does not mean that it's accurate, that it's correct in any way, shape, or form, or that's even the right document.
Could be a picture of a kitten.
It could. You could put a picture of a kitten in there. We won't know it till we come to audit, but you will not be in compliance. So that little check mark does not mean anything other than a visual cue to you that, hey, I've uploaded January. I'm good to go for January. I can move on, and then next month I'll do February. Okay. You can also, if you get everything uploaded and you think, did I do commissary twice? I mean, I don't know about you. If I've got a lot of stuff to upload, sometimes I think, oh, did I already do that one? Even if I try and name them, very crystal clear, sometimes I'm like, I can't remember. So let's say you don't know. I've got these 2 example bank reconcilements. I named them the same thing. I don't know if I did commissary twice as one inmate trust. You can download it, that little arrow right there, and it will download down at the bottom. And you won't be able to see it, I don't think, when I open it. But it will open that document, okay? It'll allow you to look at that document and say, oh, yep, this was commissary. Oh, this wasn't. I'm not sure why my screen just went.
I don't know.
There it is. So you can actually look at those documents. Maybe you download those 2 documents, you think, oh, I did download the same thing twice. I don't want to put the same thing twice in there, so I need to get rid of one, okay? This red X, and do this very carefully, because once you delete it, it's gone, okay? But you can click on that. It prompts you, do you want to delete this record? You'll hit OK, and it's gone. So now I don't have that duplicate record. Or if you put a picture of a kitten and you realize, oh, I didn't mean to put the picture of my kitten on there, I can delete that and upload.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Am I understanding this correctly? We can send our cash and commissary information as one document.
Yes. Yes. It's how you have it saved. Don't make it harder than what it is on you. So if you have them saved as separately and it's easier to do it separately, do it separately. If it is one document and it has multiple things within that document, that's fine too. Now, there are size limitations. I don't think you guys would actually get there, but if you have some kind of issue, like maybe you've got it all together and you go to upload it and the size, it's giving you an error message, that's when you would want to contact either the Gateway Help Desk or IDRC. That is something Lori and I can't help you with. Okay, so if it is a system error of some kind, you would need to notify that. But yes, so separately or together. Okay, we don't care, we just want the information. Okay. Hold on. I got chat.
The sheriff's secretary is asking, is she needing to send her cash book every month? It's pretty thick.
Okay, so really with the sheriff's cash book, we're just wanting that month, okay? So not the whole year, we're just wanting what the transactions and things that occurred within that month. Is that helpful? That's why it's broke down, because we do know that's gonna get to be a pretty big,
Yes.
pretty big thing. Oops. Okay. All right. So we've talked about the monthly. So you do have an annual upload, right? So if you were here in person, I'd say, what's your annual upload, everybody? Like how I play all that, that's fine. But you're gonna upload the inmate trust subsidiary detail, right? So really, again, it's not due until the AFR's due, which would be, when it's not a leap year, March 1st. All right, so you're gonna probably upload it at the time that you're uploading your December monthly uploads. It's probably the most convenient time to upload it. So you've done every month. Now it's time to do the annual. So you have to click annual. When you do that, it changes this little box right here to say inmate trust subsidiary detail as of 12/31. So we want those balances and stuff as of 12/31 of the previous year. So in this case, when you do it, it'll be for 2021. What were your balances in each of those inmate trust accounts at the end of 2021? So you'll select that. Again, you're going to choose a file. I don't have a file for this, so we're just going to leave the same one. And then you submit. It tells me my submission is successful. In this case, the annual should be at the bottom. And it is. Okay? So it's down there. You can't, they do offer, not all of these will apply to you, but you can download all your files at once that are uploaded here. Okay, if you want, there is a possibility there. Okay, while I'm here, and this is going to be kind of hard to see. Try to think of how we could do, because the box is not there. Okay, well, I'll just talk about it because it's done the exact same way. And I did not put this in your presentation. For whatever reason, I wasn't even thinking about it until Lori said something yesterday. I'm like, oh, I totally forgot to put that in there. So those are your monthly and your annual uploads. Is that the only thing you will ever have to upload? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, I know that's not a great thing, but we're coming in to do an audit. We're going to need to see your, invoices and checks and your receipts and your deposit slips. Okay, we're not asking you to upload those monthly. But when we are going through the audit, we do sample. So like Lori said yesterday, we don't do 100%. Okay, we do sample. So we'll go and do, normally it's a random sample of your receipts and disbursements. And then we're going to want that information. So let's say COVID rears its ugly head. We can't be on site. We're working remotely from home. We do have a way to get that information without having to come on site. And so what this is called it's called a direct request, okay? I can't show you in here because you have to have somebody from the outside. We have to initiate it for the box to show up, and I've not initiated it here. Actually, I'm not even sure I know how to initiate it. How sad is that? So once the direct request comes in, so let's say we are auditing and we're wanting 10 of your invoices that you paid out of commissary, okay, to look at. So the field examiner is going to initiate that. They're going to send an email, is how it kind of gets, I mean, they upload it into the system will send you an email. I guess is how it should go, yeah. So they're going to upload into the system. They're going to put into this, hey, we need these 10 invoices. They'll probably have like the date of them, who they're to. They'll give you information so you know what you're pulling, all right? And they'll submit that into the system. The system will then flag it and send an email. Now this is the important part. The sheriff is the submitter. Remember me talking? The sheriff is the submitter. If the sheriff is the submitter, the sheriff is who receives this email. We can't delegate that away because we're auditing the sheriff's office at that point. So it all falls on the elected official there because they're overall in charge of everything, even though they may not do these records. So the sheriff needs to be paying attention to those emails, and if you are not the one who's uploading it, then make sure you get that email to the person who is, okay? Because the delegation will not receive an email. So, if the field needs information, they submit this request, the email comes to the sheriff, and then it never gets uploaded. We just need to figure out what's happening there. So if you can get that email to whoever it is that you've delegated, just forward it on, then they can go in and they can upload those invoices that we were asking for, okay? What happens during that is a box will pop up above this light blue box here where we were filling it. There will be another box, and it actually says direct requests in it. It'll list all of the information, and it walks you through what you need. And then this upload group right here, there will actually be a direct request line that pops up in here, and you'll upload the exact same way. It will then populate this field and what they requested, and then you'll choose your file and you'll submit it. Same way as you've done everything else, okay? When this email comes to you, don't respond to the email. It goes nowhere. I don't know where it goes. But nobody has access to it, so we won't see it, we won't know. You should know who your lead is, okay? Who the lead field examiner doing your audit is, who you've been in contact with. Once you get the email, let them know, hey, I've got this email. I see that you're asking for these invoices. It's nice if you can say, I can't get to it today, I'm busy doing this, but I'll work on it and I'll have it to you by the end of the week, or I'll have it to you by Wednesday, or just open that communication so that they know that you've received the email, that you're working on that request, okay? I don't know if anybody's ever gotten one of those yet, but is there any questions about direct request? You guys are being good here.
No, nothing coming through on the everyone.
Make sure I've covered everything I want to cover. I think I have on that. Talked about the file status.
Do the delegation.
We talked about that with access. Oh, I didn't show you where to get it.
Right.
So that's a good thing. Okay, so let's. All right, I'm just logging out of this for a second. You still see all that? Okay. Okay, remember when we were talking about supplemental AFR? Yep, okay. So when we were talking about the supplemental AFR, I had you go to the county's webpage to get that template. Okay, so, and it was on the county's page and it was under Gateway. So this is where you want to go for the delegation form. So if as sheriff you're wanting to delegate the upload responsibility to someone else, you have to click this little arrow next to the Gateway upload application. And it comes down here. It does talk about, Gateway a little bit here. Talks about how you request your access. But this right here is your limited delegation of authority. I don't know if I can. Oh, I can. It's this form. So you'll print this out, fill it out, and then scan it and email it to the Gateway help desk. Okay, and it tells you right down here. Gateway at sboa.in.gov. All right, and then they will get the access for whoever you are delegating. Oh, I see the chat. this is private, okay. Oh. I know that there's a lot that have not been submitting, so that's why we wanna, work on getting you guys in compliance with it, okay? And Lori and I will help you. The other thing I did want to mention is if you're uploading everything and you're just not sure about if it's maybe the right thing, or you're not sure if you've gotten everything, if you send us an email, hey, I am, I'm trying to pick another county, Stark County. I'm Stark County. I think I have, I think I've got everything. Could you take a look? Lori and I can log in. Like I said, we could take a look at those. We're not going to do the whole year, but we'll pick a month or so, look through, make sure that it kind of looks okay, and we're going to tell you, okay, it looks like you've got everything here. Again, we're not telling you those documents are accurate or correct in any way, shape, or form. We're just telling you it looks like what you've uploaded is what we've asked for. Okay? Okay, so there is that. Now, there is one other thing I want to talk about. Just one other thing. Okay, just one more thing. Ooh, I guess I don't know. You guys might get out of here. Oh, it's not bad. Okay. I'm gonna log back in here, take you back to this screen. So one other thing I want to talk about is conflict of interest disclosure, okay? And this is in your presentation packet if you printed it out. So statute, Indiana Code 35-44.1-1-4B talks about that, basically what conflict of interest is, okay? So it's, basically a public servant who knowingly or intentionally has a pecuniary interest, I always want to put an L in there, or derives profit from. So maybe, I'm going to use as sheriff. Maybe as sheriff, you own a building company, I don't know. And the county is going to enter into a contract with this building company. Obviously, there's a conflict of interest there, okay? And so that doesn't mean they can't do it. What it means is a conflict of interest needs to be filed, okay? And so what we've done is we've made it kind of hopefully easy for you to file a conflict of interest. You file it with us, and you're going to file with your clerk, okay? But you got to do both. It's the responsibility of the elected official to file their own conflict of interest form with us, okay? So make sure unless your clerk says, hey, I'll upload this for you, it's your responsibility to get it done, okay? But to do that, it's within Gateway. So we tried to, again, make it as easy as possible. You're going to come to that exact same screen for the monthly and annual uploads, but this time you click conflict of interest disclosure. These disclosures are due, and we even put over here, 15 days after the final action on the contract or purchase. All right, so that's when we expect it to be done. This gives you kind of some information. Let me see if it will. Okay, there's not really a prescribed form for this. We did put something together that you can use, and it is right here if you see it. Again, it's going to be a download, so you're not going to be able to see it, but you can see it downloads to my computer. I'm pretty sure if I open it, you won't.
Yeah, you do.
Look at that. Okay, so you can fill it. This is a PDF, but it's a fillable PDF. Okay, so I go through, fill this out. You're going to have to print it and sign it, okay? It does not save, so don't fill it out here and then think you're done, because it will delete all of your information. It's not submitted. This is just a fillable form, okay? Once you have that and you have it saved, then you will upload it down here, okay? You will put your name, your email address, select your county, so Clark, you're going to be picked on now. Okay, if you're going to select your unit type here, you're going to select county, and then, no, oh wait, yeah, sorry, that is right. And then it'll just come up Clark County. okay? And then you will browse, find where you saved that document. They make you type this code from this image, and then you will upload it. That is it. Once it's uploaded, that is submitted to us. It does become public, okay? So you can look up, going to the public side really quick. Actually, I'm not in the public side, am I? Yeah, I think.
No, you're not.
I'm not, am I?
Got to log out. There you are.
Log out. Now I'm at the public side. Okay. So if you go to the public side, like we talked about earlier, conflict interest disclosures are right here. So for 2021, we're in Benton County. And right here, you can tell this one, obviously the county itself didn't have any. This was from a town, but they'll all be listed here. So that file that's uploaded, you can click right there and it will open that up and you'll be able to read that. People look at these. I just want you to know that.
Yes, they do.
It is a big deal, and a lot of times if citizens think that it hasn't happened, this is the first place they go and look for it. So, you know, make sure you get them filed timely. Okay. I was thinking there was something else I was going to show you, and now I don't remember what it was. Okay. Oh, well, fine. Stop that sharing. Okay. Again, this is just going to walk through what we've already done. That's where I was coming back. It's our contact information. Man, we're going to get you guys out of here real early today. Unless you have questions, because we'll be more than happy to sit and answer any questions. But hopefully that kind of gives you some insight in how to upload in Gateway, what you need to upload in Gateway. We talked about the monthly, we talked about the annual, we've talked about the direct requests, we've talked about conflict of interest, why you do it. Hopefully this is really kind of, you know, a good resource for you. We'll have this recording up. You'll be able to rewatch it if you want to watch me go through it. I don't know, I would want to watch myself go through it, but that's just me. So at this time, we've got a little bit of extra time. I want to open this up to any questions. So if you want to submit them through the chat, we'll try and answer as many as we can going forward. Or if you be anything, Gateway, anything. Is it overwhelming? Is it? I hope you're not going to say overwhelming.
I hope not.
I'll leave the other open if I can. That's fine. Any questions? Clear as mud. Or everybody loves it. They're having a party, Lori. They're having a party. They're like, this is the best
They
thing
probably ordered in pizza.
ever, right?
Why didn't we think about that?
Once you get in the habit of doing it, these are things that you are already doing. We're just going to ask for you to upload them. It really doesn't take a lot of time, and once you get into a rhythm of doing it, it should be a fairly quick process. I am not expecting each and every one of you who haven't done any of it to have them all January 2021 up by Friday. That's not an expectation, but I would try and have them all up by the end of the year, or by the time you do December's. So that would be March next year. Okay, if you could have them all up then that makes you in compliance. That makes us ready for the 2021 audits moving forward. Everybody's being really quiet. It's like they asked all their questions yesterday. Very informative. Good. I hope that you guys I hope you guys really found this very useful.
And if questions come up later, don't ever hesitate to call or email.
That's why I put this thing up here now. Yeah. Print it out, frame it, sit it on your desk so you're like, oh, Lori and Ricky, I need to go talk to them. We'll help you as much as we can. We can help with other things too. So, Oh, I know somebody who says they prefer the remote version. So you didn't miss us, is what you're saying.
It is more convenient. I have to give it that.
It really, really is. And not having to, well, not exactly. They said, I've audited a lot of counties, and I remember calling over there saying, hey, I need this, 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 and this. And then, somebody from the jail trucking over these big boxes of stuff, So this does help kind of alleviate some of that. So hopefully it'll be more, efficient for us and for you.
Less time consuming.
On both sides. And, that translates a lot of stuff. That helps us get our work done faster, quicker. I always like to say, if we get it done faster, we don't, our billing goes down because we did it faster. So
we were the people with the big mouth.
There's a lot of them out there. I promise. But I will say, auditing sheriff's offices are kind of a neat thing because I don't know if I should say this out loud because it might jinx me. Is this table made of wood so I can knock on it? Okay. All right. I've never been selected for jury duty. I mean, I've been selected in the pool, but then, you call the night before and they tell you whether or not you need to show up. Mine always say, you don't need to show up. So, not that I would do it.
Didn't get me out of jury duty.
I would do it if I got asked to do it. But that's really the only time I can think of that I would ever be over inside of any kind of sheriff's office, especially when they're in with the courts, and the ones I'm thinking of, they are. And so doing that and being in that sheriff's office and seeing something, it's just kind of a neat experience. I don't want to do it for very much, for very long, but it is enjoyable. And hopefully we can do something like this in person at a later date, just to kind of get to know you, so you have a face to a name. I mean, I know you're seeing us, but we're not seeing you, so that you have that more comfort level. But please know that call us for anything. Even, like I said, there is no such thing as a stupid question. Sometimes people don't want to ask because they think, oh, I'm the only one that has that question. You're probably not. Okay, so we would rather you call us, let us help you get through and upload what you need to upload or not upload, or whatever other questions that you have, okay? All right. Okay, so got a question. So, still confused as to the submission of monthly report to SBOA when I'm required to perform a semi-annual report. Okay, your semi-annual reports do not come to us. Your semi-annual reports are submitted to your county council. Your monthly uploads are what are submitted to us. Is that helpful? So when you do the semi-annual, that's how your council is seeing what's going on inside that commissary fund, okay? Because if you remember, number 9 inside the statute talks about you need, if you want to spend something outside of the first 8, you need to talk to council about it, okay? There needs to be an agreement there. So, this is another tool for them to see what's going on in the commissary fund because it's still county money.
And this commissary fund supplements your county budget. And so the council oversees your county budget. They need to know what is there supplementing it as well. And that's why they want to know what's involved in that. But that is statutory that you inform them, but it doesn't go any further than the council.
Question from yesterday. Okay. Hopefully that answered your question with the monthly uploads and the semi-annual. You really have 2 different audiences that you're submitting to.
I'm still waiting to see what the question is.
I think it's going to be a long question. You know what, and some of the stuff I think we're so used to seeing the little bubbles, you know, like if you're chatting with somebody or we use Microsoft Teams, so if we are talking, you know, we'll see each other chat, like we know that there's a response coming and you're just like, we don't have that here.
No.
It's just, okay. Oh. She said, she only put one in annual, which I'm not gonna lie to you, I did not even notice. So we're in the same boat there.
What?
She said, I really can't spell.
Oh.
It's okay. I mean, there's not really we don't really grade on spelling.
No grammar. We're not the grammar police. We're
That's
not
right.
the spelling police.
That's funny. Question from yesterday. I'm wondering if, okay, probably. Thank you. Looking to see what question. You guys can ask anything else that you want to ask. You know, again, don't hesitate while you have us. We're not always available like this, so we like to take the time to answer anything.
Even if we haven't talked about it in the last 2 days.
That's true.
If you have a
Yeah,
question
if you have a
about Board
question
of
way
Accounts,
outside, let us know. Not way outside. I mean, if it's not accounting
I
related.
don't know anything about alien abductions, but I
That's
think
true.
they're sure of that.
I mean, we're serious. We're serious most of the time, but we like to have a little bit of fun with it. Thank you for all the information. Yay! We have quite a few people on here. I'm going to unshare this so that I can see something else as it comes up. Oh, we got some people in there. Here we go.
People are already leaving.
Yeah, there are people, which is fine. If you are done, you don't have any other questions, please feel free to go ahead and go.
Thank you for watching.
Hold you
Thank
here.
you for participating.
We, again, hope that you found this useful, and, you know, thank you. Just thank you for showing up. Oh, there's the question. Can we buy drug equipment out of a line if the money has never been withdrawn? Okay. Are we talking about the appropriation? Yes. Okay, so your appropriation is done yearly. So if you've got a fund that gets an appropriation, okay, that appropriation would need to be done every single year. Okay, so it's good for a year. You can sometimes encumber that money into the next year, but it has to be based on contract or an invoice, something that you have obligated the county into paying for in the current year. Okay, so you can't carry over an appropriation because you plan on possibly buying equipment next fall. You would, in that case, you would go through the appropriation process and it would be a part of your budget for that year. Does that make sense?
And if you have an unused appropriation in an expense line, and it's not equipment, you can transfer that. There are procedures to go through that, to transfer to your capital outlay for equipment, but you have to go through the procedure for that.
That answer it? Okay, thank you. Yay. If you have any other questions or you want to clarify something, you can give us a call or an email. We can get in more depth with it. Everybody's saying thank you. I like it. We should have ordered pizza. We could have shared it. Oh wait, we couldn't because we're virtual. We could have eaten it all.
We could have eaten in front of you. Yeah.
You almost caught me eating breakfast, I'm not gonna lie. But I thought I'd save you that. We appreciate y'all. We really, really do. We're gonna hang out here for just a few to see if there's any questions that come through for a little bit longer. But again, if you don't have anything, please feel free to go ahead and sign off. And just use our contact information if you have any additional questions. And be on the lookout for an eGov if you've subscribed, or something talking about the recording and the survey, okay? Like I said, probably I'm gonna say a week to 2 weeks, maybe sooner, but I'd rather give you a further update than say tomorrow, because it will be tomorrow. Half an hour early, look at that. Lunch, early, everything. When you work at 6, at noon, lunchtime, it's harder and harder to do.
We left early today because of the fog. It didn't help me much.
I would say be careful driving home, but they're all home. Well, if they're home county. We should be careful driving home.
We should be careful driving home.
About 25 people left. 24, oh, it's starting to drop. Maybe they're gonna stay and watch us. I think we're funny.
Not that funny.
I think we're
between
funny.
them and lunch.
That's true. Very, very true.
How many do we have?
Only 20 people left.
No.
Oh, what?
Oh.
It was fun. It could have been. I want to save as, I almost forgot.